Hey everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Louisa. I am in my third year of studying medicine at the University of Cambridge. I want to get on with this video because it's been a while since I filmed one. So I filmed a little series. This is the last part of that series on how to kind of save money and make money and get by as a student at university, especially this year because we're in a bit of a financial crisis right now. So this video is going to be the last one, and that's on how I'm going to save money as a uni student. Without further ado, let's get on with the video. Okay, so the first way that I kind of save money as a uni student is by being tactical. Well, it was how I have previously saved money and I'm still benefiting from it now. Basically, I was tactical as to where I chose to apply to university and which college at Cambridge I picked. You don't have to choose a college when you apply to if you're applying to Oxbridge. You can put in an open application and you just get assigned a college. And even if you do apply directly to a college, there's no guarantee that you'll end up there because you could get put in something called the winter or the summer pool, which basically just means you get moved. But to be honest, it doesn't really matter. The point is that I picked this college because I knew that it was cheaper in terms of both accommodation and food. And it's the same across the country. You don't have to be at Oxbridge, you don't have to choose a college. You can just be choosing the universities that you're applying to and have in the back of your mind, how much is the accommodation here? If I'm going out in the town, how much is it going to cost me for a night out? How much is food in this part of the country? So all of those little things can add up and make a difference as to how much it costs to be a student in that area. So if you check out things online, you can look at the university website, you can read on the student room, ask students at the open day how much it costs them. And often if you go to an open day as well, they'll have rooms in that university or in those halls or in the colleges that are open for you to go and have a look around, and you can speak to the students at that university or at that college, ask them how much it costs, and then get a rough idea on the budgets and prices, and then you can choose where to apply based on that, if that's a big factor for you. Just to put it in context, this room I'm currently in you can't see all of it, but it's a big room. There's this room and there's another room next to me for my friend to live in, and then we share a living area just outside. And this whole area, so it's 2 rooms, and it's got an amazing view. It's in the oldest part of Cambridge, in the 5th oldest college, so it's really old, really nice rooms, and it costs me currently £183 a week, which is actually quite a lot, but it has gone up. It sounds like a lot to me because it's gone up in the last 2 years. When I started at Cambridge, this room would have been more like £160 a week, but because of inflation, the rent's kind of gone up just over £20 a week in the last 2 years. So yeah, but that's just how much this room is. And then in terms of the food, I'm vegan, so my main meals this year cost me £1.50. In my first year, they were just over £1. And I used to make my own sides, and I wouldn't get lunch. I'd make my own lunch, make my own breakfast. So I would spend like £1 a day on food, and I'm still kind of doing that. So it's pretty cheap, this college, and I definitely think I'm very lucky with this one. But I also considered, when I looked at other universities, how many in London did I want to apply to, because obviously London's got a reputation of being really expensive. You do get more maintenance loan from the government if you apply to London and you go there. But just bear those things in mind, because university is the main factor here. So yeah, choose wisely is my first tip. The second tip is to also choose somewhere where you could potentially self-cater, because self-catering is a good way to save money, especially if you're efficient and savvy with it. And like, for example, in my second year, I had self-catered accommodation. I was still able to come and eat in the dining hall, but because I had a freezer and I was living further away, I more frequently than not would choose to like make my own food and keep it and then freeze it and eat it whenever I wanted. And it saved me time, it saved me money. And as a vegan, I also just found it easier because it meant I could choose what I wanted rather than having just the one option here. So I would recommend trying to self-cater as much as you can. And that kind of comes on to the third point, which is try not to go out into town too much and like eat in restaurants too much, get takeaways too frequently, or like go to bars all the time. That's not to say don't do it ever, it's just to say that it is expensive, especially if you're in a university city or a town that's old. So Cambridge is obviously an old and quite famous place to go to university. So a lot of tourists come here, a lot of visitors come here, and that means that the bars and restaurants can charge quite a lot because they know people that kind of have no choice and they have to eat there. Whereas students have a choice a lot of the time, and so we kind of get ripped off if we go off into town to eat all the time. Definitely worth trying to either stick with your hall food or your self-catered food and avoid going out. And if you do go out, I would recommend that you kind of save it for special occasions, not only because that will save you from spending more money all the time, but also it just means that it's more special. So if you save it for things like friend's birthday, maybe your birthday, or if you've graduated, or if you've just finished a piece of coursework and you want to celebrate, done well in your exams, that kind of thing, it just means that it's a lot more special when you do eventually go out. So that's my third tip. The fourth tip is something that I've touched on actually in the first video I made in this series, which was how I earn money as a student, but it's also something that helped me save money. So I fill in questionnaires online for a company called The Opinion Panel, and I will link their website below if you want to do the same and make an account. But basically, it doesn't take very long at all. It's like every survey is no more than 5 minutes probably of my time, but I earn points for every single survey I do, and then if I get enough points, then I get given a voucher, and then I can use that voucher on basically anything I want. So I can use it for Amazon, or I can use it in Smith's, I can basically use it anywhere. So that's really good. And then another way I earn vouchers is through working for my college, but I'm sure a lot of universities do the same. So if you are working an open day, a lot of the time the college or the university will reward students that are helping by giving them a voucher if they can't actually pay them in cash. So if I do an hour of work for the college, they give me a voucher rather than money, and the voucher can be used at either Sainsbury's or on Amazon or as a book voucher. I'm not someone that does much reading. I would like to, but I don't. But I do a lot of shopping. So I need food, so I often opt for a Sainsbury's voucher. Either way, it saves me money. So I recommend finding ways to earn vouchers if you can't actually have a job and earn cash. The next tip, so the fifth tip, is going to be to shop secondhand where possible. So usually that would be for things like clothes. That's kind of what everyone thinks about when you say shop secondhand. But that could also include things like decorations for your room. It could be bedding. It could basically be anything. It could be kitchen utensils and equipment. There are lots of things you can buy secondhand. TK Maxx is a really good shop because a lot of the stuff they sell is not secondhand, but it's basically clearance items that other shops weren't able to sell first time round. So if TK Maxx didn't sell it, it would end up kind of in landfill basically. So and that also means that a lot of the time it's discounted. So that's one option if you're not keen on shopping completely secondhand. If you are okay shopping secondhand, which is my personal preference, then I recommend apps like Depop, Vinted, eBay. They're all really good. Just make sure that you're not caught out by people kind of buying brand new clothes at a cheap price and then marking them up and selling them on Depop or Vinted, which can happen with companies like Shein. A lot of the time people will bulk order clothes from Shein, which are really cheap because they're made in sweatshops and in factories that don't treat their workers very well, and so they're cheap and they're not very good quality, and then people will buy these items and sell them, mark them up on Depop and Vinted and make a living from it. So try and be vigilant and spot those types of products if you can. Usually it's because you can tell because they're not on a model, and often it will say Shein, or it won't have a label, they won't say what the brand is. So if you can avoid that, then secondhand is really, really good, and apps are great. Charity shops even better because obviously you can try on clothes and it goes to money goes to charity, so that's really good. Also, you don't have to pay for postage. And then the last option for shopping secondhand is something called a kilo sale. Most universities do have them, or towns do have them. So in Cambridge, it's one Saturday every month, and you basically go to this. Usually, it's in a church or a cathedral or a town hall. You go along, they give you a bag, and then you walk around and you put all the clothes in that you like off the racks, and then you weigh the bag at the end, and then depending on how heavy the bag is, that determines how much you pay. So it's pay per kilo, hence the name kilo sale. That is tip number 5. Tip number 6 is to try and set up a student bank account. This is something I didn't do until my 3rd year, which was really silly, but I just kind of didn't understand the perks of having one, and I didn't think I would need it. Then in 3rd year, obviously we got hit by a big financial crisis. Thank you, Liz Truss.
We import 2/3 of our cheese. That is a disgrace.
And I decided it would be time to open a student bank account, so that's exactly what I did. And when I did that, the bank gave me £100 as a thank you for choosing them. Other banks might give you a rail card. Even if your bank doesn't give you a rail card is a really good thing to have as a student because you get 1/3 off train tickets. So if you're someone that's travelling home frequently or making trips to London or the nearest big city, like if you're in Leeds and going to Manchester, or from Liverpool to Manchester and vice versa, then it's a really good idea to get a rail card because it does save you a lot of money in the long term. You do have to pay a one-off fee for buying the rail card, but you earn it back really quickly because of this 1/3 off saving. This is basically the last point. So it's kind of obvious, but be careful where you're shopping. So if you are buying food from supermarkets, make sure you're not going to MS and Waitrose all the time because they will be more expensive than say Lidl and Aldi. And also if you are going shopping, make sure you're being careful about which brands you buy. And if you buy any brands, try and avoid brands full stop if you can. If you're really fussy about which brand of bread you have, then that's fine, and stick with it, but don't be buying brands all the time. I'm telling you now, there is not a difference between like most branded items and the own brand from the supermarket. So just be savvy about that, and you know, just give it a go and try the own branded stuff if you've never had it before, and you might be pleasantly surprised at how similar it is to your well-known brand. So that's basically the last tip. I say basically because it goes without saying, but use a student discount. So you are a student, you will get more discounts than the average member of the population. So make sure if you do go out for food, and if you're going out to a supermarket, or if you're going anywhere, even like in Superdrug and Boots, they often do student discounts as well. So just make sure you're making the most of the loyalty schemes and the student discount. It's great. And like Cafe Nero does one too. So if you're a person like studying in a coffee shop, then make sure you have the Cafe Nero app and you verify the student ID, and then you'll get discounts on coffee. And even better, if you bring a reusable cup, you get a free coffee even more quickly, because you can collect stamps as part of the loyalty card. You can get 2 if you bring your own cup. So that's basically it. So I'll just quickly recap. So the first one was to choose your college or university wisely. Make sure you've done your research and you know how expensive it's going to be. The second point was to self-cater if you can, and if you can, then do it, and make sure you use that freezer and you buy cheap ingredients. The third point was to not go out and eat out and order takeaways and drink out in bars all the time. Definitely do it for fun and do it as a little treat, but don't be doing it every day, because it will all add up very quickly. The fourth point was to try and earn vouchers from doing things like online questionnaires and maybe through working for your college or university. The fifth point was to shop secondhand. So that could be through things like Depop, Vinted, eBay. The next point was to set up a student bank account, try and get some benefits from that if you can, and it's a really good idea. And often you can have an overdraft as well that has interest free. So that's a really good one. And then the last kind of one was to shop at Lidl and Aldi, or somewhere that's cheaper to go shopping. And then the very, very, very final point was to use your student discount. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found it useful. I hope you now go and save lots of money and save your pennies, because you never know when you'll need them. When you do, you're going to need them to do your degree, because university is expensive. Yeah, I hope that video helps you. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it interesting. And I will be seeing you all very soon, hopefully. Now I'm done with my coursework, I can get on with making YouTube videos again. So my next video will be about what it's like to be living in the centre of Cambridge, and I'll do a tour of my route from here to kind of the campus, which is where I have lectures and labs. So I will be showing you around Cambridge. So I will see you all then. In the meantime, take care and goodbye. But other banks will give you this chair's really squeaky. So that was, and I say, this chair is so squeaky. The fifth point was to I think, choose your supermarkets wisely. No.